Today's video is sponsored by War Thunder. Tarkov's latest patch featured a buff to AKs and a nerf to 5.56, but how impactful is this? Today I'll be running through all the ammo stat changes that came with patch 15 so you can see where we stand in the new wipe, starting with a brand new caliber 50AE. This is for the newly added Desert Eagle pistol that has been added to the game, a very iconic weapon, and we have 4 new cartridges within this category: JHP with 147 damage and 12 pen, Hawk JSP with 122 damage and 26 pen, Copper Solid with 94 damage and 33 pen, and FMJ, which is the most powerful at 85 damage and 40 pen. These are quite strong, as you might expect, but with the Deagle at mechanic 3, we probably won't be seeing this in raid quite yet. Next, let's take a look at the buffs made to 5.45. This caliber has been shunned by the player base for a while due to a combination of low time to kill and low damage with only mediocre penetration. 5.45 has been improved pretty much across the board, starting with ammo as low as SP, US and T, which have all been given a 2 damage bump to 67, 65 and 59 respectively. This probably doesn't matter all that much, and so the first significant cartridge is 5.45 PS. This is one that players tend to use quite a lot in the early wipe because it's very similar to M855 on the 5.56 side with its 28 penetration, and it has received a damage buff of 3 from 53 up to 56, which is nice. The next cartridge up, PP, has also received a small damage bump of 1 damage from 50 to 51, but it's only when we get to BT do we really see a big difference. BT has had one of the biggest damage increases across this whole balance pass, being given an extra 6 from 48 to 54. None of the penetration chances have changed across 5.45, and so with 54 damage, this makes BT much more competitive with M856A1 on the 5.56 side. Prior to this, BT had less damage than 5.6A1, and now it has more. There were a couple of tweaks to the high-end ammos as well, with 7N40, the rare recoil reducing round, getting 3 extra damage from 52 to 55, although it did have its armor damage decreased from 50 to 45, so it will be a little bit less effective against those class 5 armors that depends on wearing them down. BS also got a little bump up to 45 from 43, so only 2 damage here, which probably doesn't make that much difference, but against lower level armors, it could be the difference between a 2 and a 3 shot kill. Before we continue, today's video is sponsored by War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, which is available for free on both PC and consoles alike. The variety of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters and ships across 10 major nations makes for engaging and intense combined arms gameplay with a high level of replayability. Featuring over 100 years of vehicle combat history, from biplanes and armoured cars of the 20s to the fighter jets and main battle tanks of today, the attention to detail in modelling the vehicles, the realistic graphics and authentic sound effects come together to make a truly great experience. What is remarkable though is War Thunder's PvP focus. With a global community of over 70 million players and an unmatched level of high quality content to discover, this game offers longevity that few can match in today's market. Regarding the vehicles themselves, each one is modelled in great detail right down to the individual components, which, as Tarkov fans would appreciate, is very immersive when it comes to combat. This system allows for vehicles to suffer actual damage to different parts as well as to their crews. The result is one of the most dynamic and detailed vehicle damage models in gaming. I love a bit of attention to detail, and War Thunder has its own post-fight analysis system called Damage X-Ray, which shows exactly what happened to either you or the enemy as vehicles are damaged and destroyed. You can fly the planes without fancy joysticks or other hardware, being totally possible with a mouse and keyboard using the game's mouse aim mode, which works really nicely. Other than the level of detail, my personal favourite feature in War Thunder is the VR support. When combined with air combat, this makes for an incredible PvP experience that is one of the best, but you can still play with those that aren't using it, so it's totally optional. War Thunder is available on PC, PlayStation and Xbox, and most importantly is free to play, so you have nothing to lose by giving it a try by using my link below in the pinned comment or the video description. This will give both new and returning players that haven't played for at least 6 months a massive bonus pack across all platforms regardless of which system you play on, providing multiple premium vehicles and an exclusive vehicle decorator, the Eagle of Valor, along with 100,000 Silver Lions and 7 days premium account. This bonus is available for a limited time only, so make sure that you sign up today so as not to miss out. So, one of my favourite tools, Tarkov Gunsmith, goes to show why the BT buff is quite a big deal, especially in the early wipe. Against a press armor with a regular class 3 plate in it, this takes BT from a 3-shot kill to a guaranteed 2-shot, so 1 less shot using BT now. As we saw, the patch also claimed to have tweaked some of the 5.56 stats, so let's go and check those out next, as these are most directly comparable to 5.45. Looking into the detail, it turns out that this change isn't actually that impactful. It only affects the ammo from 18 pen up to 33. So M856, which is the starter tracer round, has lost 4 damage, which is the biggest nerf from 64 to 60, but hardly anyone used this bullet anyway. FMJ is similar on usability and has reduced its damage by 2 from 59 to 57, another very underused round. The two that do get the most use is M855, which had its damage reduced from 57 to 54, and SOST Mark 318 Mod O, which had its damage reduced from 55 to 53. I don't think this is make or break for these bullets, it's just kind of bringing them in line with the 545 counterparts a bit more. The only other change here in 556 is a small decrease in the armor damage on M855A1, so it will be slightly less effective against those class 5 and class 6 armors later on into the wipe. Next, let's turn our attention to 7.62x39, which was another Eastern caliber that supposedly got some buffs, and indeed they have. This one is interesting because again, it's in a very significant section of the ammo chart, a bit like 545. So starting with T45M, this received a buff of 1 damage to 65 from 64, but then PS, a very well used round, has had a 4 damage increase from 57 to 61. This means that it packs a real punch now. The next bullet, PP, which was kind of like a tier 2 staple of the endgame of last wipe because you could buy it from the traders, has moved up by 4 damage as well, from 55 to 59, and with its 41 pen, this is certainly improving its lethality. The one final bullet that got a buff in this category is MAIAP. This is the unicorn availability top-end bullet that you can only find in Raid, which had its damage buffed by 6 from 47 to 53. Simply due to the availability, or lack thereof, of this particular cartridge, I don't think this will change too much, but it's nice to note that this bullet is now a little bit better if you do manage to find some. Just for the record, 7.62 BP remains unchanged at 58 damage and 47 pen. Now, interestingly, this caliber did actually take one nerf, which is on 7.62x39 HP, which is a favorite of the Scavs, and this used to have 87 damage, which has been reduced by 7 down to 80. This probably won't make that much difference in general to PMCs on the offensive side, but it will stop you getting one shot to the thorax by random scavs if you're not wearing any armor, and given that there is an armor weak spot on the rigs that I've talked about in previous videos, this will help a little bit to improve combat consistency and stop those just random deaths. There have been some changes to 9x21 as well, which is the caliber for the Shrimp and the SR2M, which I thought was significantly underpowered before, so it probably was needed. 9x21 PS has basically been completely reworked because previously it had 35 penetration and 49 damage, but there were quite a few bullets in that 30 to 40 region for this caliber. 9x21 PS then has been reworked to 22 pen. This is a lot lower, but with 59 damage instead, which sits more neatly between 7U4 and 9x21P. A couple of other rounds here have just taken straight damage increases, 7U4 itself from 47 to 53, BT from 49 to 52, and 7N42 from 45 to 49. There is one final secret nerf to 9mm, which is the 9mm PBP. The best ammo for that particular caliber has been nerfed from 52 damage to 44, which is actually pretty significant. It used to have the same damage as AP 6.3, but not any longer. It did have its armor damage increased slightly up to 55, but I assume that this change is due to the increased availability of this cartridge, and we're just going to have to see how it feels in Raid. We've had a new weapon come to the game in 9mm, which is one of the variants of the Uzi, so this balance pass might be to do with that. Overall, in the early wipe, I think then the two big winners are 545 BT and 7.62x39 PS. These two cartridges have taken quite big damage increases, and given that they were relatively good anyway, this is a big boost to the weapons that use those particular bullets. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to use my link today in the pinned comment or video description to receive the massive bonus pack for new and returning players that haven't played in 6 months across all platforms, including multiple premium vehicles and more. Don't miss it. As usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.